Okay, welcome back to the Quiet Signal. Today we are doing the Odyssey full review and a little bit of decode here for you. Right off the bat, spoiler warning, all that nonsense. But really, you don't need to worry about spoilers, I think. My rating, 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 stars. You can watch it, but you don't need to see it. It earns its runtime if you're paying attention. It is definitely Nolan doing the Odyssey his way, so don't expect a faithful retelling. It's not even attempting to be a one-to-one adaptation at all. There is a loose framework pulled from the source material, but it is filtered through a very specific modern and moral lens. Whether that is a betrayal of Homer or an interesting modernization is a fair debate, and the answer is probably both. The culture war discourse surrounding the cast is fake. It's not really that important, and it's not worth your time. Anybody saying that this film is really, really good or really, really bad is lying to you. It is mid through and through. Elliot Page plays a pipsqueak loser character who was never supposed to be the masculine champion of Troy. That's the whole point of their character. The diverse casting is not to... It did not pull focus in the film. The Botox or plastic surgery on other actresses in the film was more distracting than the diversity casting and Elliot Page casting. The historical realism argument is just dead. It's really not that important. Previous adaptations of the Odyssey have also carried baggage of the time and place that they were made in, and the Odyssey itself is a mythology to begin with as well. I bring up the point that male actors would play female roles in Shakespearean theater. This has always been the case with art. It has always been an interpretation. And this movie is not attempting to go for realism, and it doesn't have to. So the real criticisms are more interesting than anything to do with the culture war sort of discourse. Robert Pattinson is the standout. Tom Holland is boring. Anne Hathaway is fine. The colloquial modern English could have either leaned further in or further out of that aspect. But it never became a massive problem to me. And that is how I would rate or describe the film. When looking at the director, Christopher Nolan, the pattern of his film is kind of made clear. There's a clear pattern running through everything that Nolan has made, where his protagonists are intelligent individuals who overcome their obstacles with wit rather than force. There's an element of one man bringing an intellect that ushers in a new age or a breaking of a system. There's this resetting of established order, sort of Promethean firebringer, light bringer, if you will, right? It runs through Memento, The Prestige, Inception, the Batman films, Interstellar, Oppenheimer, and now this. There's kind of a similar thing going on with all of those. So there's Prometheus stealing the fire from the gods and giving it to men, and then a punishment that comes along with that. That's kind of an internal or new age apocalyptic event. The the ushering of a new age comes with it a cost, basically. The intellect that's gifted to the world comes with a cost. So being chained to a rock and an eagle, eating his liver, regenerating, and then repeating. In the case of Prometheus, right? Which, honestly, a Promethean story would have been probably more interesting if Nolan had done it. It'd be kind of cool to see him do like a Sisyphus or Prometheus, I would think. The gift of divine intelligence given to mortals always carries a debt. Every Nolan protagonist is a version of this, and you can call that Luciferian if you want. The Lightbringer who falls. You could call it Messianic if you want, the figure whom the divine interfaces with the physical. Whatever framework you use, the structure is the same. Someone messes up the status quo for good or ill, they bring the gift, and then they pay the cost. What Nolan does with the Odyssey is an invert of the triumph. In Homer, the cunning is celebrated. The Trojan Horse is a success story. Nolan turns that around and says that triumph is actually the tragedy, and that what was lost along the way was not worth what was won. His characters are geniuses who solve problems that maybe were not meant to be solved. The gods had a plan. The exceptional individual figures out a way to escape it, and it is not necessarily a good thing. My interpretation of the Trojan Horse as like first ideas as weapon, the first time like an idea is used as a weapon, where we find that the horse is not just a military trick, it is the first covert operation in Western literature, the first stealth mission. More than that, it is the first idea's weapon. The moment in recorded history where human being weaponized trust, turning a gift into a killing device, and destroyed something from the inside. This is where a certain kind of propaganda begins, the glorification of trickery as strategy, cleverness as virtue, outsmarting the system as heroism. You see this celebrated again in guerrilla warfare, the American Revolution, drone strikes. We are so much smarter than these people because we can kill them without getting our hands dirty. The camera drone watching a man on a portable toilet in a field somewhere. We win, and we are better, and our innovation proves our superiority. But something human gets lost with every one of these innovations. The car, the atom bomb, the drone, the horse. Each one of these brings a short-term victory and a long-term cost that compounds in ways the inventor cannot predict or stop. The Oppenheimer prediction or comparison is the exact same way, and Nolan knows this. The atom bomb is the modern Trojan Horse. Both usher in a new age. Both ideas are weapons, and both come with a cost that the inventor lives with for the rest of their life. Whether Oppenheimer actually said, "I am become death, destroyer of worlds," or whether that is a romantic myth-making, same as Odysseus's guilt, possibly being the film's invention rather than Homer's, it does not matter. The myth does real work even when the event is not exactly real. When looking at Zeus's law and the Bronze Age collapse, Zeus's law is xenia, the Greek hospitality code. When a wanderer comes to your door, you feed them, shelter them, treat them as a potential god in disguise. When you are a guest, you honor the host. This is the civilizational glue holding the interconnected Bronze Age world together. The Trojan Horse is a metaphorical betrayal of that law in its totality. Odysseus weaponizes the gift He exploits the hospitality code to bring soldiers inside of the walls of a city that accepted the offering in good faith. In doing so, he breaks the seal of common decency between men. And the cascade that follows in is the whole point of this Nolan film. Odysseus and his crew, making their way home, stopped at settlements and raided them. They were raping and pillaging. They were the Sea Peoples, the mysterious raiders that histories of the Bronze Age collapse describe as arriving from the sea and dismantling civilization. That was them. The greatest threat to Greek civilization was the Greeks. The barbarians were already inside the gate. The violation of Zeus's law spread outward from Troy like a plague. One man's clever idea, and the entire interconnected age of palaces, trade routes, and shared language collapses. Looking at the bastardization of Nolan's film, taking Homer's story and completely inverting it and changing it, where there is 2,000 years of esoteric commentary that is just completely ignored. Nolan does not engage with any of this commentary. He found the modern feminist translation by Emily Wilson in 2017, her 2017 translation, Tell Me About a Complicated Man, and the film was built off of that statement. He is not respecting the full history of the text. A lot got ripped out. The central esoteric text that I took interest in is Porphyry's On the Cave of the Nymphs, which is a 3rd century AD Neoplatonist philosopher who connected to Kabbalistic frameworks and the Tree of Life. Porphyry argues that the Cave of the Nymphs in Book 13 of Homer is an allegory for the soul's descent into matter and its return to divine origin. The cave is the physical world, beautiful inside, but murky. Not as bright as the metaphysical outside, but you enter the cave at birth, you exit at death. 2 gates, one for mortals going in, and one for your divine or infinite soul, lowercase g, gods coming out. The olive tree outside the cave is divine wisdom in the world, but not of it. What Nolan keeps is Odysseus stripping his possessions at the threshold and returning as a beggar, the lowest social form. That is the initiatory act preserved. But he does not include the cave itself and what it means, and then somewhat undercuts his own restraint with the big suitor battle right after. The connection to Plato's cave is right there in the Cyclops sequence, someone trapped in the shadow world, receiving only the refracted version of reality, until a light comes in to destroy the false certainty of single-focused brute perception. Single-focused Cyclops, it's all there. The cave is a recurring symbol across the entire Western philosophical and esoteric tradition. The Odyssey is the foundational text underneath all of it. The initiation structure, monster by monster. The Odyssey is not a random string of adventures, it is an encoded initiation rite. The Eleusinian myths, mysteries, Hermeticism, Freemasonry, all of these structure initiation as a journey through specific stations of trial. Each obstacle in the Odyssey is a specific test corresponding to a specific form of binding the initiate that they have to do to pass through. The Cyclops is brute force without wisdom, single-eyed, single-focused, son of Poseidon, deep water, the unconscious, everything beneath the surface. Odysseus defeats it with Promethean fire, literally driving a burning stake into one eye, and with the semantic trick of calling himself nobody when the Cyclops is asked by his neighbors Who hurt him? He says, nobody, because that is the name Odysseus gave. The trick of language, the technology of naming used as a weapon. Language can trap you in semantic paradoxes so easily. It is the same trick used when someone tells you your economic concerns are invalid because you have a television. They are not engaging with the argument. They are recontextualizing the terms until the complaint disappears. The Cyclops could not process it because it only had one eye. Circe is the shadow mirror. She turns men into pigs because she already knows what men are. Nolan cast Samantha Morton, the actress who warned about Harvey Weinstein before Me Too had a name, as a woman who knows what men will do and preemptively transforms them into what they already are. Odysseus has to stand in front of her and justify his men's existence. He cannot argue with her read. He personally oversaw Troy. The film frames her as a victim with just cause. Homer frames the feminine as an obstacle to overcome. Two different moral universes, and Nolan picked one without acknowledging the other even exists. The Sirens offer everything you want and everything you cannot have. Not false knowledge, actual knowledge. That is what makes them more dangerous than Circe. The danger is what the ego does with total knowledge. It stops the journey. You can feel the siren song anytime you have a consumption problem. It is the gas station when you said you were only stopping for gas. It is the hot dog under the heat lamp you know will not satisfy you like a real meal, but your eyes roll back in your head and you are already possessed before you consciously decide anything. The only escape is physical restraint. Odysseus binds himself to the mast, deafens himself with beeswax. If your hand betrays you, cut it off. Calypso is the most subtle trap because it is pleasant. But Calypso is not the deceiver here. Odysseus chose to stay. He stayed because the lotus flowers let him forget what he did in Troy, and forgetting was easier than returning. The nymph did not trap him. He trapped himself. That said, identifying active negative forces and calling them what they are is not the same as saying it is entirely your fault. The gas station is not a neutral party. It is designed to make you buy the slop. Systems that extract your time, money, and humanity are not neutral systems you are freely choosing to engage with. Both are true at once. You are responsible and you are being actively deceived. The second truth does not cancel the first. Pretending the first cancels the second is the shell game. The gods, real or projection? The Athena reveal is the film's central theological question, and it refuses to answer it. The priestess of Troy killed during the sack. At the same moment the statue of Athena was beheaded. Her face becomes the goddess Odysseus keeps seeing throughout his journey. The connection was made in trauma. The film deliberately leaves open whether Athena was even real, or whether divine presence has always been the name humans give to the guilt and wisdom that haunt them. Two readings. The materialistic one. There are no gods. What the ancient world called divine intervention was psychological projection. The monsters are trauma. The goddess is a ghost. The other reading. The gods withdrew. The beheading of the priestess at the moment the statue falls is the literal severing of the connection between the human world and the divine order. After that desecration, the gods do not speak directly. They speak through the echo of what was lost. Athena appearing as a dead woman is not proof she never existed. It may be proof of what was destroyed when she was killed. The feminine in Nolan versus Homer. In Homer, the feminine forces in the Odyssey are obstacles. Circe, Calypso, the Sirens, natural forces representing danger to the male traveler. Things to be wary of and ultimately overcome. Not necessarily a moral judgment, possibly just the neutral mode of thinking at the time. In Nolan, every feminine force has just cause. Circe was victimized and defends herself preemptively. Calypso offers love and is punished for it. Penelope is imprisoned in her own home under a guest right she cannot violate. Helen was never the point. She was a pretext for a resource war. The feminine in Nolan is something to be understood rather than conquered, a mirror held up to masculinity. Both readings are coherent on their own terms. They are different moral universes, and Nolan chose one. The slave morality reading. The original Odyssey has no slave morality in it. Odysseus triumphs. This triumph is celebrated. The cunning is admired. The homecoming is earned. Nolan applies a Christian moral lens to pre-Christian text. The result is a story of self-wallowing and defeatism, where even winning is a kind of losing. Even coming home is tainted by what it costs to get there. Guilt, suffering, humility become virtues. Power and triumph become sins. That is the Nietzschean slave morality structure, and Nolan imported it wholesale into a story that originally had none of it. It is not wrong as a storytelling choice. It is modern and it reflects where the culture is. But it is worth naming that Nolan changed the moral universe of the original text completely, and that is not a small thing. The ending and the eyes wide shut connection. Odysseus and Penelope sail west together into exile. Telemachus inherits the throne. Every reviewer is calling it the Tolkien ending. Frodo sailing to the undying lands, and they are not wrong. It is Nolan saying, you made your mess, you got your homecoming, now go. The next generation cleans up what you broke. You remove yourself because you are the stain, not punishment, the only decent thing left to do. Eyes Wide Shut, to me, lives in the background of this whole conversation. Bill Hartford in Eyes Wide Shut wanders through the night, encounters stations of seduction and transgression, receives revelations, and returns home changed. Alice has her own parallel journey through dreams. Both films reunite the couple after both parties have traveled somewhere the other could not follow. Both films leave the metaphysical question unresolved, where those actual otherworldly forces or projections of an anxious mind. The ambiguity is the signature of the initiatory narrative. The mystery does not confirm itself. The modern parallel. Every new innovation strips something human from humanity. The automobile, the atom bomb, drone warfare, the horse. We keep celebrating the trickery and calling it intelligence, and something gets lost every time. The modern world is full of people who are too clever for their own good, making things more complicated than they need to be, ushering in new Trojan horses, artificial intelligence, automation. Whatever AGI turns out to be, something is on the precipice. We are in the same position the Bronze Age was in before the collapse. Nobody saw coming because they were all too busy being impressed by the horse. The digital age collapse is coming the same way the Bronze Age collapse came. Not one dramatic event, but a cascade of system failures that are each individually survivable and collectively fatal. The Trojan Horse is the name that traveled 3,000 years from the beaches of Troy and landed inside your operating system as the word for malware. The metaphor made that journey on its own. Nobody needed to keep it alive. It survived because it is the correct name for the thing. The Signal. Nolan made a film about a man who was too clever, who broke the rules of the world with his intelligence. who invented something that could not be uninvented, and spent 20 years paying for it. The modern world is full of that man. He does not call himself Odysseus. He calls himself an inventor. The principle underneath Zeus's law is not exclusive to ancient Greece. It runs across civilizations and eras. Do not weaponize trust. Do not turn a gift into a killing device. Do not destroy from the inside. Once that seal is broken, it does not reseal. The Bronze Age collapse took 3,000 years to become myth. The myth took another 3,000 years to become a film. The collapse we are living through right now is being filmed in real time. Someone in 3,000 years will adapt it. The question is who controls that story and who gets to be the hero. You can find my full review, my schizophrenic podcast, the most schizophrenic podcast on the internet, hosted by me, your signal master, your signal guy, your signal provider, on my Patreon. There's a full, in-depth explanation of these ideas listed in this review. Thank you, and good night.